you know, with my electrical business, just the money that needs to come in all the time. It's it, you wouldn't believe it. You just would, you'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
just curious, what's what's like payroll on a monthly basis or payroll
It can
expense?
be, yeah, it can be anywhere from 48 to $70,000
Okay, yeah,
a month. And then supplies can run anywhere between 30 and a million. You know what I mean? Depending what we're doing.
yeah.
It can get fucking up there. But anyway, so I used to like, oh my God, I got to get paid for this job. I have to see what's going on. I got a call. I was just freaked out about it because I've got so many families to feed and things like that, and
Right.
you pay your bills. But probably a couple of years ago, I just said, I just can't keep taking this. I've been doing it almost as long as you've been alive, and I'm just tired, you know? So I just said, fuck it. I've never had a problem. I've always made it. I'm just not going to care anymore. And you know what, Ron? It doesn't make a difference. The money always comes in.
Yeah.
And but the only difference is the way I feel about it. Like now I don't give a shit. Like, you know when you hit that perfect wave, right? Or you don't think about it. You just do it,
Right.
And I don't know if have you ever played golf?
Yes, yes. I've played golf a few times and I feel like I already know what the example that you're going to give, but I've had um, a couple games that were very, very stressful because I'm trying really hard
Yeah.
to play golf right. And then I've had some games that not even full games, but some like swings on some holes where everything just like lined up and I was hitting them perfect.
Yeah, it's almost like when you just look at the target, how am I going to get it there? Just look at the target. Look at the target. Be the ball, look at the target, right? You make some phenomenal shots. But when you think about your swing, oh, I got to bring it back and follow through. I got to get my weight on this side. Everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
So I guess we're both talking the same language. We should make a video, me and you, and put it on. But those are the things, like the minute you don't give a shit about something, it just comes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like there's actually a really good book. I got it over here on my bookshelf. That's about this concept. It's a really short read. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis. And it was written for tennis players, but really what it's for is high performers. And the whole concept of the book is whenever we're trying to do something, there's these two selves. And it's exactly what you talked about. There's
Yeah.
there's the me that's doing the action, that's doing like I'm swinging the golf club. And then there's the other me that's trying to coach this version of me about how I need to swing. Like, okay, remember to like sit in your hips and remember to look down at the ball and don't look up after the ball after you swing, keep looking down and and whenever those two versions of us are like separated while we're taking an action, um, it hinders the results. It's like when you're just fully like just in your body in the moment and you know the outcome and you're just there taking the action. The golf club becomes an extension of you as well as the ball, as well as the green and the fairway, like all of it's you. And then it's just you doing something and then it works out perfect. The same way, like
Yeah.
when you hit that perfect wave. I've done the same thing skateboarding where I was trying to do a trick off of this leads. It's probably about like waist height. Um, and I was at the skate park trying to do the same trick like days and days before, like multiple days over and over again. It's where I would like come from the front of the board and I would pop it up and I would flip the board around and I would do a 180 and catch it with my feet and try to land on the ground and roll away. And I was just trying it over and over and just like slamming over and over again,
Mm.
like not even getting
Yeah.
close. And I was reading this book at the time, and I thought, all right, next time I go to the skate park, I'm just gonna go there and do it. And it's funny because the next time I went, I wasn't even there to skate. I was literally skating by because the park is at the beach in Santa Barbara, and there's like a beach path, and I was skating along the beach path, and I was doing like little tricks on the beach path as I was going by, and I saw the skate park, and I was like, oh yeah, like the ledge that I was in the trick I was trying to do. And I go over there, I try it one time, I like just pop it up and kind of kick the board away for like just to feel it out. And then I was like, okay. And then I went, it was like no thought. I wasn't coaching myself on all the things I was doing wrong before. I just was like, just do it. And like did it perfect. Popped it, the board flipped around, like sucked up to my feet, like what you see on TV. So, and then I'm just like finishing rotating and then just like land it perfect. And like I've never even seen anybody else do that. Like I'm not one of the best skateboarders at the skate park by far. I'm the old dude trying to skate, you know, compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like I've never seen anybody else even do that on that thing. And I just showed up and did that. And then a bunch of kids were like, "Oh," and then I was like, "Cool." And then I left. You
Yeah.
know?
Old guys rule. That's awesome.
And but the thing was, I was fully like 100% just in the moment. And um, I think it's funny how the same thing applies to like the results that we're getting online. I experienced the same thing when I was trying to close sales over the phone. When I really needed them to close, they never would.
Hmm.
When I need them, because I'm thinking all the things that I got to do right and the questions that I got to ask, I'm thinking about me instead of just them. You
Mm.
know, why I needed to close. Like I need to make this money to be able to do this and blah 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 blah. And all those thoughts, the coaching of myself, of ourselves, it just prevents us from being fully present. And all the magic is in the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true, man. And once you get it, once you know that, and then I got to relate that to, it's just like when I said in my video, it was just flowing because I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know that sounds I cared, but I didn't care. You know what I mean? And it was just flowing and hey, so I know this, I'm getting the combination now. And it's like you said, what is it be attached to nothing?
Yeah. Just detachment from the outcome.
Yeah. And then you've got something because now you're living free.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole key, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's it.
that freedom.
It's living life. Um, I feel like what we're talking about is literally like the definition of living life in a
Mm,
state of flow or from a state of flow. It's that creative space. And I don't mean creative like, oh, I feel so inspired, I can go paint a masterpiece right now. I mean like the creative state that this is going to sound a little bit abstract, but like the same type of creative energy that was around when the Big Bang banged and things just happened, right? And planets coalesced and the human species like evolved and animals are like doing their animal things, you know? And it's like
yeah.
that's what I mean by creativity, because that's like really like life and everything that we look at. That's the ultimate canvas. Like, yeah, painting canvas, that's cool, but like this is a canvas too. And we're all painters like of the canvas on a daily basis. And when we're like living in that flow state, we're like really painting our part of the portrait like with intention, you know, and not overthinking it. And we're
Mm,
just like we're just brushing on the canvas. And if you ever watch somebody like create a piece of art, right? They're not overthinking. They're not like with their paintbrush and they're like, wait, maybe right there. They're just like, and like they're in this state of flow, right? In that same state. And yeah, so I think that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is super cool. And it's just like anything, you know. If we have a way to explain how to get into flow, it's a game changer.
Yeah, well, explaining how to get this is the difficult part, right?
Exactly.
And from what I've noticed, it's like I can point to it easily. Like this whole conversation so far, we've been pointing to it. And for somebody who's already observed that, experienced it, they know it in some way, shape, or form, they can easily see that we're pointing to it, right? But for somebody who hasn't, um, they may not, right? But being able to point to it, I know that for me, aside from being in just a state of flow, sir, I'm talking to the dog,
Hmm.
like you have other toys. I put his really squeaky one away because it was like super loud. And he's just like, the one that I don't have is the one I want. um,
Yeah.
so all I know is that before I had this experience where I really felt like connected with everything, um, I had heard people saying things like that, and I thought I knew what they were talking about. But then once I had the experience for myself, it was like all these previous conversations that I heard and things that I heard, like all clicked together in my mind. Where I'm like, oh, that's what they were talking about. This is what so and so was talking about. And then I started doing research and looking on the internet and seeing all these different things that I've seen before in like in new lights. But I feel like everybody's experience with that, um, it happens at different rates and at different times for them, you
Mm.
know. And even though it would be great to be like, hey, let's like help the whole world wake up right now.
Yeah, it'd
Like,
be amazing.
right, it would. Uh, and at one point in time, this was like one of my biggest like desires and goals is to do that. And and then I realized that, and maybe this is a limiting belief that I have now, you know, actually,
Mm.
now that I'm about to say this, uh, I realized that everybody grows at different rates. And one thing that I truly do believe is that we're all here to experience life and experience difficulties in life to learn from them, but not just learn from them, but to also realize that all of it is a blessing. To realize that the difficulties, the hardships, the lessons, uh, and just being able to experience like the good and the bad, positivity, negativity, uh, you know, relationships and, you know, like friendships and enemies and like all of it. The whole experience is just like a beautiful thing that we get to do. And like being able to experience that and remember that. I feel like all the different lessons in life and the hardships and also like the triumphs, they're all there to kind of like lead back to this point. And then it's like, and as soon as I'm aware of it and I realize it, I'm like, oh, cool. Then everything's good and everything's right. And I'm at peace with everything exactly how it is and where it is. And then what happens inevitably, because I feel like this is the human condition, is then I create another goal. As soon as I create a goal, what I'm unconsciously saying is that how things are right now is not how I want them. I want them like this other way. And then the separation starts again. And then I go on this journey where there's ups and downs and triumphs and defeats. And then I attain the goal, whatever it is, whatever the transformation is, whatever it may be. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And then I'm like, I look back on that journey I just took and I'm grateful for all of it, the good, the bad, everything, the experiences. And then I'm like, ah. And then I go, but what about, and then I create another goal. And I feel like this is, and that just keeps looping back and forth, right? And so there's these moments of total awakeness throughout the journey, at least for me, and followed by um moments of like almost like unconsciously moving towards like whatever this goal is that I've created for myself, whether it's a good goal or a bad goal. I had this same thing happen when I was on drugs. Like my goal was like do whatever I want, feel good in any way, shape, or form that I can, and that's the most important thing. And it's funny because then I took like blind action towards that, and like the goal, the desire, I should say, instead of goal, it's like it's always achieved. And there's this uh road of ups and downs to get there in this experience, but it's always achieved, whatever the like true desire is. And it's almost like while I'm on that journey and I'm on that road to whatever that desire is, it's almost really similar to like when you're in a dream. When you're in a dream and you're not really awake and you're just kind of doing things, but you're not even really making the decision to do them. And then it's like once I achieve the thing, I can sit back and it's like I wake up from the dream for a little bit. I'm like, oh, this is like really rad. And then it's like I go right back into it. But I think I kind of went off on a tangent, but I think that everybody is is kind of experiencing this in their own way, and and being able to wake everybody up at the same time, it's definitely possible because anything is possible. But I think that even if that were to happen, it's not going to be because of what one person does. It's it's like an all of us together type thing. And
Yeah,
even
it's
then,
definitely like a ripple effect that would have to be created,
right,
you know? And the interesting thing about, I don't know, I guess life itself, when a baby's born, right? What is the kid's happy, right? The kids, every single baby that's ever born is extremely happy. I mean, they pass gas and they're laughing, right? It's just everything,
right,
but then they get conditioned, right? And I think that's the challenge because of the conditioning, we get further from spirit, right? God, whatever it is. And conditioning over time, and then all of a sudden, the few people that are awakened, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait a minute. A lot of things that we've been told just aren't true. And things become easier because you allow it. You allow it to become easier because you just accept it as being easy. I think you're, right, exactly. You're right. I mean, is it is it possible? Well, anything is possible, right? But is it likely?
mm,
Well, that's a whole different question. So
right,
I think that especially right now in our existence, somehow if people can be awakened, it would be a great service to what the future looks like.
right. I think so too. But I also think this, something that you said made me think of this, and it reminds me of like kind of like the same attitude that I have when, let's say, somebody asked me to speak at like one of my recovery meetings, right?
Mm.
And this is like I used to think like, man, like what am I gonna say? Like, because I'm looking at the other guys in the meeting that have like 30 years sober, and I'm like, dude, I got like almost three. Like, what am I gonna share in this thing, at this meeting? And I used to think that, but now I've realized that it's like, dude, first of all, it's not about you. It's not about what other people think of you. It has nothing to do with that. It's not about if the guys who have been sober longer like you because of what you say. You know, that's
Mm,
not it at all. That's all about you. You know, it's like,
yeah.
so every time I do share, if they ask me to speak, which is where, you're, for anybody who doesn't know, it's like you're sharing for a long time, like telling your story, and like usually like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes, like at a podium or whatever. Um, and so whenever I do, I just think now, and I say like a little prayer to myself. And I say it in my head, but to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it,
Mm,
something bigger and greater than me, right? And I just say, like, just please speak through me and let what I have to share help at least one person.
yeah, I love
And
that.
and that's it, because it's like how do you change the world, right? It's one person
Mm,
at a time. Like that's like how do you take, it's the same thing of like how do you take a journey of 1,000 miles, right? It's
first
with
step,
one
right?
step. It's
Yeah.
the same concept where it's like, is it likely that everybody becomes fully like self-aware at the same time? Like, who knows? I don't even really want to say no, but I also am like reluctant to say yes, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what
yeah.
but what I do know is that like I can help one person become more self-aware. I can do that. And what everybody else does or doesn't do, like ultimately isn't even up to me, you
Right,
know?
right. Yeah. We're just getting done. But I think I think it's interesting if we could just look at, say, God or spirit or whatever it is, just look at it as energy, just energy. There's no man or woman in a cloud. It's just energy. It's just it's just this vibe of energy. And can you create it in your body, right? For a certain frequency or just a certain vibe, or and then things appear, things just get easier.
Yeah, and it's funny because like ultimately it's like that, just your question, right? Of can you create it in your
Mm,
body, right? Well, it's like technically it is your body and your body's it.
right.
So it's like it's not like nothing's, in terms of energy, nothing's being created or destroyed.
Exactly.
That's it. It's just consistently and constantly in flux, but it's just it's there. and like, I mean, we can go down the whole rabbit hole of like quantum physics and quantum mechanics and stuff. And I'm, if anybody is in the comments like, what's this dude like a physicist now? Like, no, I just watched a lot of YouTube videos, probably like you,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Like
So
my,
if God's energy, or spirit, whatever you want to call it, so then everybody is God, and God is everywhere.
depending on how you are looking at it, that's the funny thing about like duality, right? Because there's always a statement of truth, and then um there's always an opposite view to it.
Yeah,
Just like just like how there's hot and the only thing for things to even exist, the only way things could even exist at all is if there's a polar opposite, right? So it's like, yes, like if you look at it like that, and we all are this energy, and that energy is God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, then yes, we are all that. And then also there's the exact opposite viewpoint, because the only way for that viewpoint to even exist is for there to be an opposite, right?
right.
And so
Yeah,
there's the exact opposite viewpoint of like, well, how is that even possible when I just feel like I just feel like the dude sitting here with headphones on that's trying to get my dog to stop playing with this toy behind the computer or trying to get it. Like I don't feel like that. And but the thing is, it's like one can't exist without the other. So they're both true at the same time. And that's the funny thing about duality. It's like a magnet. If you're looking at a magnet, there's a negative end and a positive end. And there can't be a negative end without the positive end. Like they both have to exist to have one they both have to be there to have a magnet. And it's the same thing for everything else like in existence, at least in like this physical realm, so to speak.
Yeah. Whether it be the Earth, right? The South and the North Pole and the whole thing.
Yeah, light, dark, hot, cold,
Right. Good, bad,
inflow, out of
you know?
flow.
Exactly. You can't know what good is if you don't have bad. So
Right.
some pretty interesting stuff to dig into, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's what what's that saying go? Like as above, so below. Like for whatever reason,
Yes.
like that's popping up into my head as we're talking about this.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny you bring that up. I just heard that saying. Someone said it, as above, so below. And how truth, there's so much truth to that.
yeah. And you know, the other thing that makes me think of is like mirroring, right? Which is this is a funny concept when it comes to like non-duality or duality in growth. There's this concept with mirroring that I learned about from one of my mentors, one of my coaches. And the same guy that I learned the stuff about the Facebook ads from, right? And like checking them. And and that's that like we tend to always see like whenever we tend to see what we want to see, right? And we tend to not see views and things that viewpoints and perspectives that like that we disagree with, right? And so the funny thing that I'm thinking of is the flat earth thing, right? There's this
Yeah, yeah.
flat earth movement, right? And then there's like the round like I would say regular people, but I don't want to offend any flat earthers out there.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah.
the people who do believe in flat earth theory and the people who don't, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but the funny thing is like the way that I look at that is like there's this whole bunch of people that think that it's flat. There's a bunch of people that think that it's round. And what I see there is like it's just like opposing views. And and there's always opposing views for anything to exist. There's a negative and a positive. And so it's like what that just tells me is like, well, the Earth actually exists. If we're getting like really deep into like quantum mechanics, it's like, are we all in a dream? Is this a simulation? It's like, well, no, there's an Earth because like people have these different viewpoints about it. Um, and I just try to stay. I mean, I obviously think it's round from looking at globes and being in airplanes and all that stuff. But when you like really go down the like rabbit hole a little bit,
Yeah.
if you think like we're all creating our experience, just like how I was checking that YouTube video and looking at the numbers, and as I'm checking it, it stops getting views because I'm looking
Mm.
at this static number on my phone, and I'm like, well, now it's not getting views, and now it's not anymore, right? And when I'm not looking at it, it's infinite potential, and it's like if you take that idea and run with it, right? Well, then like everything that's out of my view right now is just infinite potential, and it like snaps into place as I'm experiencing it. As I walk out of my front door and go out to the street, it's like right before it's like all this stuff there like snaps into place and I experience it, right? Well, from that
Yeah.
perspective, then like, is there even a world? And I know that this is getting like really deep, right? Where it's like put on your
Yeah,
tinfoil
yeah,
hats, right? So this is the stuff that I like to think about, like from that perspective, from not if you take yourself out of the human experience and you're just like totally neutral, observing consciousness, like is there even a world, or is it just a sea of energy that we perceive as this world, right? And if that's the case, if it's just this sea of infinite potential and energy that we're all a part of, like observing itself, that can do anything, be anything, well, then it makes complete sense why some people 100% believe, like, no, the world's flat, because from their experience, that's what they believe. They see all the evidence for it. They think that that's real, right? For them. And it is. If you believe that it's round 100% and you see nothing but the evidence for that, then for you, it is. It's like they're both true, but for individual experiences of this energy that we call like reality. But that's it.
yeah,
I'm taking my tinfoil hat off.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we could go on forever, right? I mean, did we
Yeah.
land on the moon? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting shit.
Yeah, but all that stuff, like it's fun to talk about and for me to think about. But like ultimately, like when I think about all that stuff, it makes me think like doing anything like transforming ourselves, right, to become a better version of ourselves in our life.
Yeah,
Instead of like figuring out, is the earth really flat, is it round, all these higher concepts of quantum physics and energy and spirit, but like actually being able to make like a change in my life, like that, it's actually easy, right? The only reason that I think that it's hard, or that it is hard, is because I think it is.
right. Exactly right.
And
It's as easy as making a decision, really.
right,
That's what comes, that's just the bottom line. You just decide to, right? But
that's
to
it.
get someone to make that decision on their own takes a little bit of work sometimes. As far as I've experienced with coaching.
Yeah. Well, everything takes work.
Yeah, it sure does, and
And when I say work, it's like action, you
yeah.
know? Um and and like doing things, saying things, like yes. And but that's, and everything takes that. Relationships, pets, for
Yeah.
example, right? Even this conversation, it's taking work. I'm moving muscles in my jaw and vibrating my vocal cords and thinking things, and you
Yeah.
know, um, and so yes, that's true, but I don't think that that's like a good or a bad thing. I think it's just like that's, yeah, everything takes some form of work, but it doesn't mean that the work has to be like the way that we tend to view work, where it's like, oh, this is work.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
feel like that. It does if we choose for it to, you know.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's usually the thought of work, not the experience of work that sucks, right? It's the thought that sucks. It's not the experience.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and I say all this stuff like, oh yeah, everything, but I do it too, you
Oh, we
know.
all do.
Yeah,
Hey, take like a couple nights of only 3, 4 hours sleep, right? Well, you're, at least for me, speaking for myself, I'm not gonna be in the best of moods.
right,
You're gonna get a little irritated a little quicker than you usually do if you do.
right,
So it's like I always said, it's like sometimes, those with me, it's a sleep thing, right? Or nutrition, right? You start eating bad. It's like putting water in a Ferrari, right? It's just not gonna run.
yeah, 100%.
And, and that's a whole different topic in itself, just nutrition itself, right? I mean, what's allowed in the American food industry is horrible. you know? But we could go on that forever. I always say people aren't, I mean, people are out of shape in the US. It's obesity and everything else. However, like I believe they're getting poisoned. That's why. It's, you get some hard working people in the United States of America.
Yeah.
But why are they getting so fat, right? Well, look at the food chain, right? The food's horrible.
Yeah, but also on top of that, it's like I know plenty of people that have been eating total garbage, but they move their body consistently. And I know that I don't know about like their blood tests and all that stuff, but if you look at them, it's like dude's in shape, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're eating a DiGiorno every night, you know.
Yeah, yeah. How do they
Um,
get away with it? But how young are they too, Ron? I mean,
yeah, talking about 20s, 30s, early
yeah.
30s. Um, but
The
the thing is,
difference, even the difference between your age and my age right now, right? It's so different what I can eat and what I can't eat.
yeah, I think that, like making any kind of change or transformation, I think it's really important where it's like, yeah, there's like food, like what you're talking about with food and our diet and like what's available to us. Yeah, like that does have its effects, right? But at the same time, I like to think of it as like a more empowered view where it's like, because I know that there's a trap that some people fall into where it's like, well, this is like this because of what they're doing, right? And
Yeah.
it's like there's one thing where it's like anytime I'm pointing my finger at anybody or anything, what I'm literally, I mean, there's the saying that's like you got three fingers pointing back at you, ha ha ha. But that's not what I was like going to say, right? It's like what we're really doing is if I'm saying this is happening because of them, right? Because of the food that they're putting out, or you know, business isn't doing as well as I want it to because my business partner left and I'm doing all this stuff. Like anytime I'm doing that, if I'm pointing my finger at anybody, what I'm saying really is like wherever my finger is pointing, that's where the power to change the situation is. It's over
Mm.
there. It's not here. It's my business partner. That's why. Previous business partner. It's the FDA. It's the grocery stores. It's and because of that, like I can't
So
can't do
you're taking
anything.
your power away, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
you're literally giving it away anytime that I'm
Yeah.
blaming anybody or anything for my circumstance.
Yeah.
When and another viewpoint that I really resonate with is that we've all heard the concept of people saying like, being self-made. And usually people are saying this when they're really successful, right?
Mm.
Self-made millionaire, self-made multi-millionaire, blah blah like blah blah blah. Fill in the blank. It's always something good though, right? But
Yeah.
the other thing uh is that like we're all self-made. Like when I was on the street and on drugs years ago, I was a self-made on the street person because I was on the street because of decisions that I had made. Yeah, there were circumstances and things that happened in my life, right? But I had reactions to them, and those reactions were from decisions. And then I took action, and then like through the sequence of actions and decisions, I found myself in the situation I was in, right?
Yeah.
And I guarantee that if somebody else went through that exact same process of decision, like everything to the T, like in a parallel universe, right? They're same exact things, but they made different decisions. They would have been somewhere else, you know. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Sure.
and so it's like we're all self-made, and I think that's a really empowering way to look at it because it's like nothing is anybody else's fault. Like we all have the power to change things, to change our situation, regardless of what the circumstances are. Um, Even if it's like, hey, healthy food's expensive. It's like I got to go to Whole Foods and get all the, and it's like way more expensive. Like there's other options, or there's options to be able to make more money to be able to do that.
Right.
Like
Yeah. It's amazing, right?
yeah,
You want more help? I got checklists right below. So check it out. It's free.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Dude, we should do this more often.
Yeah, definitely.